So today we're going to discuss the differences and similarities between these countries. What are the elements that make both countries be so similar for moments, but also which ones are the things that also determine the uniqueness of both territories. Welcome to another video, another history lecture. My name is Vanessa Vasquez. I am your Lima City tour guide. I've been guiding in Peru since 2006. I had the chance of visiting Bolivia in different occasions to understand the culture, especially in La Paz. La Paz is, by the way, not the capital of Bolivia, but is the most populated city of Bolivia, and also it is the zone where the political power is concentrated. The capital of Bolivia is Sucre. So I live in Lima, capital of Peru. And I think it's also good to have the chance of seeing and contrasting, both, especially both important cities, La Paz and Lima, which is what I'm going to be doing today. On one side, we have the beautiful Machu Picchu, which is the jewel of Peru in terms of tourism and touristic, let's say, attractions. And on the other side, we have Uyuni. Uyuni is a salt flat that in certain times of the year, it gets like this, like a mirror. Is very pretty. And both are considered, two incredible destinations in South America. So basically, Bolivia and Peru both live from tourism. Tourism is a very important activity in our countries. By the way, the noise you're hearing in the background is my doggie. She's sleeping. So she's a French bulldog and she usually snores. So I don't know if you can hear her, but Peru and Bolivia, they are very close. They are bordering countries. Indeed, Peru is bigger than Bolivia. Oh, that's completely true. And also Bolivia lacks of ocean. Also, Bolivia is trapped in the center of South America. We refer a lot to Bolivia as the heart of South America. The size of Peru is about 1.2 million kilometers, square kilometers, and Bolivia has 1 million square kilometers. So we have a difference, a considerable difference, of course, in size. Peru is the third largest country in South America. But we have also another similarity in looking at the map. For example, both countries limit with 5 countries. So here are some differences, important differences between the both countries, and also statistics, information, which I'm going to highlight the ones that I consider more important. For example, number one, the capital of Peru is Lima. The most densely populated city in the country is our capital, right? But something curious is that the city that is more densely populated, which is La Paz, is not the capital of Bolivia, is Sucre. But also I found out that many of the cities, the important cities of Bolivia, have also almost the same, very close amount of population, like around 1 million, 2 million. Well, in Lima, we have about 12 million inhabitants, and the other cities that are the most populated in the country, they have like way less, like maybe 1 million, maybe 500,000. So the centralization in Lima is terrible. It's suffocating. Bolivia is less centralized in comparison to Peru. Bolivia has also several indigenous languages as well as Peru. No? So we are both countries of big diversity in terms of cultures and languages. So that's a similarity. And many of the languages spoken in indigenous languages spoken in Bolivia are as well spoken here in Peru. Ethnic groups, of course, we are very, very multi-ethnical, both countries, but we have in Peru a bigger percentage of people who identify as mestizo or mixed blood, and also white descendants. Also, we have Asian immigration in Peru. We had Asian immigration, so resulting in a more important group of Asian descents. Tusan, which are Peruvian Chinese, and Nikkei, Peruvian Japanese. But both countries also have Afro immigration, although in Bolivia, the Afro-Bolivians are a smaller group than here in Peru, but we also share that element in common, okay? In religion, we both countries are very, very religious, but Bolivia is more Catholic in percentage. It's more Catholic than Peru. The population of Bolivia, for example, the entire country is about 11 million, right? And the population of Peru is nearly 34 million, right? So Bolivia, the entire country, has the population we just have in Lima. So, well, the census indicate that now Lima, with nearly 12 million inhabitants, capital of Peru, is more densely populated than the most populated city of Bolivia, which is La Paz. Remember that La Paz is not the capital of Bolivia. It is, well, Sucre. But there is a reason also why La Paz is so small in terms of population. Is also the space. In La Paz, there's not really much space for growing white. No? Also, let's talk about prices. Prices of apartments. Prices per square meter. In Lima, for example, the most expensive real estate, the most expensive square meter is in the district of San Isidro. And San Isidro's most expensive square meter is around 3,700 US dollars. Being the average salary in Lima around $350 per month. So, well, you can see that not everybody can participate of that very nice lifestyle. In contrary, we have, well, La Paz. I took again, in this case, the example of La Paz, because La Paz is more densely populated, and also it's understandable that it has more social disparity, no? So in the most exclusive district of La Paz, San Miguel, the price of the square meter is about 1,300 US dollars, right? It is very, very low in comparison to the most expensive part of Lima. But something very surprising, Santa Cruz. In Santa Cruz, the average salary per month is $550. So we can also talk about the Titicaca Lake, and that's another element in common of both countries. Titicaca Lake is even a place of origin of societies, is where the Incan culture emerged. There is a legend also that refers to the emerging of the fathers of the Incan Empire. So Bolivia and Peru, they are cradles of amazing societies, like the Incas, for example, in the case of Peru, Tiahuanaco in the case of Bolivia. We share the lake. Both countries have their share of Titicaca Lake. The lake is divided almost equally. No? I've been able to find data that says that about 56% of the lake belongs to Peru, no? And 44% to Bolivia. During the Viceroyalty, Peru and Bolivia were administrated by the same authority, and they were also part of the same territory. In both countries, the social structures were established, well, like the way how the Spanish established these structures everywhere in the dominions. There was a stratification of the society that put on top of the pyramid, the social pyramid, the Spanish. Below were the criollos, the children of the Spanish born in America, so they were Americanos, they were American because they were born here. And then we had below the mestizos, the mixed blood, we had the indigenous, and in the bottom we had the mulattoes, the black, the Africans. So we had the society structurized in that way. And after the independence, well, those prejudices continue. The shape of both countries over time. You know, so how Peru and how Bolivia have changed over the course of their history. So Peru used to be very, very large, and we have lost a lot of territory. There are also lots of disputes about, for example, the look of this map with countries like Ecuador, for example, that they also using another treaties, they said that the actual land of Peru was much smaller in the north section of the country, and that actually we have taken land that originally belonged to Ecuador. So these are, you know, like conversations and problems that we had, you know, for a long time with different countries that even ended up in wars, in battles. Okay, so but let's say this territory in colonial Peruvian maps. Okay, so I just want to make very, very clear this, because Ecuadorian maps probably will say something different, but in Peruvian maps of the interpretation of the borders, well, this was the shape of Peru before the independence. And look also how long it used to be in the bottom. This land now, well, belongs to Chile. Lots of the territory in the jungle, by the way, was not very well determined because nobody lived there back then. If nowadays few people live in the jungle zones, imagine back in those days. The people who lived there were indigenous groups. So that's why these territories were very hard to shape and even to consolidate as part of the nation, or the jungle section. So on the other side, you have Bolivia. Bolivia's nowadays territory is this white section you see over there. The War of the Pacific is also a time that, because it in a way also brought both countries into a cooperation that was more like a desperate cooperation, because we were being invaded by Chile. Well, it was a time also in which both nations fought, and we both also lost land. Okay, so that's another similarity. The War of the Pacific, the period of the War of the Pacific, affected deeply both countries. Well, Bolivians will definitely say that the way how this war affected them was much more deeper than the way how this war affected Peru. We both lost land, but Bolivia lost all their access to the ocean. So they have no coast because of that war, no coast at all. Well, of course, we have a long stripe of coast in Peru, so, but losing Tarapacá, losing Arica was terrible for Peru's economy and also Peru's identity. There was also a Confederación Peruano-Boliviana, or Peruvian-Bolivian Confederation. And this is something, well, not in fact a similarity or difference, but it also helps me to portray here a perspective or a point of view about Bolivia and Peru, of nations that even for a long time were perceived as one. And people from the time of the 19th century, from the time of even the early 20th century, that believed that we were one nation and we shouldn't be separated. No? But because we already were separated by administrations and rules, not really by culture. Cultures are very alike, but they were different identities. So the only way to bring them back together was through a confederation, right? But this confederation, which was created, of course, after the independence of both countries, right? This confederation lived short, right? Only a period of 3 years. It was official. And it was very difficult to consolidate something like such a union between such big countries. Well, but the size of both countries, if we still had that confederation nowadays, that union of these lands, we would be bigger than Argentina, right? So probably will be the second biggest country of South America. The biggest country in South America is Brazil, okay? So will be huge and also very, very powerful. Look at this massive country, right? So a little picture of how South America looks like, for example. This confederation of these two countries together will definitely convert us into the second largest country in South America. That place is now for Argentina. Peru is the third largest country of South America. And now we have to talk about the food. And I think this is also another topic that is interesting, and well, every person will consider their food the best, I think, no? Like, we Peruvians are very proud of our food, and Bolivians are also very, very proud of their food. For example, I wanted to bring three dishes to our conversation that I feel they are very similar, okay? So I am not going to rate food, like which one is best, which one is not, because that really depends on the person. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the same happens with food. Lomo saltado of Peru and the pique macho of Bolivia. By the way, the capital of Bolivian gastronomy is Cochabamba. So Cochabamba has lots of delicious dishes. And pique macho, which is one of the most popular dishes of Bolivia, it has lots of elements that are very, very similar to lomo saltado. And I found also a similarity, like they are, to me, like almost exactly the same. Well, there are maybe some few like differences in the preparation, but and they are named differently also, but they have the same origin, and there must be some, let's say, a Spanish indigenous fusion. Relleno boliviano and papa rellena from Peru, right? So they are both this little sort of like bowls of mashed potato, like that are deep fried, but inside they contain a sauce made from beef. It can be also made from chicken. In Bolivia, in particular, Bolivia uses a lot of chicken as a stuffing, or beef. In Peru, we mainly use beef, right? And here, another dish that I was very surprised that also they were so identical in both countries. Anticucho was born in Peru and was born probably in Lima also. This food is basically beef heart, marinated in different herbs and different chilies, and for a long space of time, for about 8 hours, in some cases overnight, and then is fried on, let's say, a grill, preferably if it's fire, is is cooked on charcoal. The flavor is much, much better. And so what are the differences? I think there are two very important differences, because also they use different sauces as well as we do for sort of like marinating the meat. But the pieces of anticucho in Bolivia are smaller. The cuts are smaller in comparison to the ones of Peru. But also another thing is that in Peru, we traditionally use these skewers made from wood, let's say, or bamboo pieces. To be honest, it's more like bamboo. So they are disposable. And in Bolivia, when they serve anticucho, they don't serve it with a stick, because the people who prepare anticucho, they use these skewers of metal. And when they serve to you the anticucho comes already without the skewer in the plate, right? Well, this is a controversial one, La Diablada, and we're now talking about folklore. Bolivians, they are very, very protective with this folklore. La Diablada is a dance, is a tradition also that makes very proud Bolivians, and they defend La Diablada as their heritage. In Peru, we also have the tradition of dancing La Diablada in Puno. I do believe that the answer to this big deal, although nobody, I think, will be completely satisfied, nor Bolivians, nor Peruvians, but the answer to this deal is that La Diablada belongs to both nations. Why? Because La Diablada was danced before those nations existed. It's like it will be completely unfair to say people from Puno. Puno is the portion of the Peruvian territory that limits with Bolivia, that they have been dancing La Diablada for hundreds of years, to say, no, you should not dance it anymore, because, well, now that belongs to Bolivia. And what about their tradition of hundreds of years dancing it, right? It's like nowadays, the Bolivian anticucho and the Peruvian anticucho, or the Chilean pisco and the Peruvian pisco, right? So, of course, Bolivians, they fight for at least like having this point very clear that they are the land where the Diablada was originated. And from my investigation, I can definitely say that yes, it seems that the Diablada was born originally in Bolivian side, but it was still spread over in Peruvian side for hundreds of years. So not just for 2-3 years, no, for hundreds of years. So it's now part of the identity of both countries. So thank you so much for your participation, amigos. If you wish to support this project, you can donate any amount on PayPal, and also you can support this channel becoming my Patreon. So if you wish to be part of this project, that will be super, super. And also, let me show you which ones are the lectures that I will be doing. I'm doing once per week lectures. You can also give a look to the complete full-length lectures of the Inca writing, Tocapus, Quipus, and more, and also this event, differences and similarities between Peru and Bolivia on Patreon. Thank you so much for your participation. It's been really a pleasure to have you. Don't forget to follow this channel and to subscribe, activate also the bell for notifications for my upcoming events. Well, see you soon. Thank you so much for being there, and take care. Have a lovely, lovely weekend ahead. Today is Thursday, so, well, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week, okay? Take care. Bye-bye. Until next time.